So we are here today with Mark Jarman-Howe, who's the Chief Executive of St Helena Hospice. So thank you very much for being with us today. Obviously we're having this chat as part of Hospice Care Week, and the plan is just to talk a little bit more about the work that St Helena Hospice does and where it's been, where it's going to, and that sort of thing. So first of all, could you perhaps just, for those people who might be unfamiliar with St Helena Hospice, just give us a bit of an outline of what you are?
Yeah, well, St Helena Hospice has been in existence for over 30 years now, and we serve the people of Colchester and the Tendring district as well, so the whole of North East Essex. We support about 4,000 people each year, that's patients and families, and our purpose is to help people living locally with an incurable illness to live well and to die with dignity and choice.
Fantastic. And what kind of services do you offer as part of that overall package?
So we've got quite a broad spectrum of services. Most people will associate the hospice with our inpatient unit, which is at Myland Hall in the High Woods area of Colchester. And that's where we have our beds, where we provide a specialist palliative care service for patients, both at the end of life and those with sort of significant symptoms and complex problems that we can help them with. The bit that's perhaps less well known is that we support a very large number of people in the community, up to as many as 500 people at a time. We'll be going out and visiting them, our nursing staff, our medical team, our occupational therapists and physiotherapists. And we also have 2 therapies and wellbeing centres, one here at Highwoods and one at the Tendring Centre in the middle of Clacton, and both of those provide a range of daycare and outpatient services.
And how long have you been with the hospice as Chief Executive?
I've been lucky enough to be here for 4.5 years now.
Fantastic. Yeah. And how much has things changed in that time from when you first started in terms of how hospices in general work and St Helena Hospice in particular?
Well, I think things have moved on quite a lot in recent years. I think that's a combination of St Helena Hospice has a very ambitious board that's very keen to make sure that it's doing as much as possible for the local community. We know that sadly there's a lot of unmet need. So for every family that we support, we know that potentially there's another family out there not getting referred or not getting the opportunity of the care and support that we could provide. So we've always been very keen to make sure that year on year we're trying to do something about that. Over the last few years, as people will well know, both locally and nationally, there have been real pressures on the NHS, so the hospital services, GPs, etc., and also social care, all of which impacts on the patients and families that we look to support. The other key thing is that we've started to introduce some new ways of working. So particular developments over the last few years have been the introduction of our single point service, which is a 24/7 advice centre and coordination centre for local services. So any patient, any family member, any professional on any issue to do with palliative and end-of-life care can call us any time of day or night, and we're able to support and either send our services out to provide the care, or we'll work with other local services like the GP, A&E, etc. And then the other key thing is that we've significantly expanded our bereavement service. Previously that was only open to people that were known to the hospice. It's now open to anybody bereaved for any reason, and last year we helped nearly 900 people with the bereavement service.
Is that a common sort of myth almost around the hospice care, that it's all about terminal illness and that sort of thing, and actually the hospice offers a whole range of services that aren't just focused around that? Yeah,
so a core part of what we do is about being open about people who are dying and dealing with death and dealing with bereavement. I think that's absolutely key that we're open about that. But actually the key to hospice care is a real ethos about helping people live well and maximising the quality of life for as long as possible. But also increasingly we've tried to offer our care and support to people at an earlier stage in their journey, so that we're able to make a difference to them over a longer period, and then if their health deteriorates we can then step in and up the level of support we offer. And the bereavement service is a good example of where actually we've gone completely beyond that. So sadly we have people in our area affected by road traffic accidents, child deaths, etc., where there's really significant bereavement issues that are nothing to do with terminal illness, but where we have the skills and expertise and we're able to offer that support.
Fantastic. You talked earlier on about how that demand in services has grown over the time that you've been here. I know recently that St Helena Hospice has kind of looked at some of its own expansion plans. Can you tell people a little bit more about those?
Yeah, so we're very excited about our plans for the next few years. We've been looking really hard about how we provide care to more people, both in their homes but also in hospice beds. we looked very carefully at whether we would potentially move site. We decided after speaking to supporters and people that use our services that we really feel that Myland Hall is our spiritual home, so we're going to be investing over the next few years to bring up to a modern standard all of the facilities on the site, and we're also going to be increasing by 4 or 5 beds the total number of spaces that we have on this site. But we feel that that's not enough to meet the growing demand. We know that the population is growing in Colchester, and if you look at the tendering area, there's going to be a doubling of the number of people aged over 100 in the next few years, 40% increase in the over 75s. And whilst age isn't necessarily linked to need the hospice, people are more likely to have significant illness or disabilities, and we're therefore going to need to respond to
sorts of projects.
Yeah, well, I think it's an exciting opportunity for a number of reasons. The main one being it's a chance to sort of take the hospice ethos of care, which is all about looking at the whole person and their family, not just their medical situation, but the emotional, spiritual, their psychological well-being as well, and taking that approach to care at a much bigger scale than we can do. So we do brilliant care here at Myland Hall, but we only have 15 beds. A nursing home could have as many as 80 beds. And we know that sadly, anybody that's had to look at a home for a relative, that there's big variation in the quality of local care homes. So if we can do something to offer good quality care to a larger range of people, that's really exciting. But also it offers us a way of making that hospice care available to more people in a way that's sustainable, because it brings new income streams into the hospice as well.
Absolutely, and of course I think a lot of people, if they don't know the hospice from having care, perhaps the second most visible part is all the fundraising that goes on.
Exactly.
And Dandelion, who's in one of these pictures here,
yeah, absolutely,
and so on, getting out and about. I mean, just how important is that sort of new income stream, but also the current fundraising that goes on to the work of the hospice?
Well, the support of the local community is absolutely vital to what we do. We get just under 30% of our total income that we need to provide our range of care and services comes from the NHS. So that means that over 2/3 we're having to raise with the support of the local community. Things like events, the support we get from local businesses, people leaving us gifts in wills, all of those make a really big contribution. We also have an expanding number of shops, which people are very kind to donate great products to us, which we're then able to sell to raise money for the hospice. We've currently got 19 shops with plans for a couple more to open over the next few months, and they're spread right across the area. And we also have the Your Hospice lottery, and we have something like 16,000 people living in Colchester and tendering that are paying £1 a week to take part in the lottery. Much better odds of winning than the National Lottery, but also every penny that we raise from that is going back into the hospice and supporting the work that we do.
Excellent. Now, obviously, we're talking today because it's Hospice Care Week this week, and the theme is around the people who work in the hospices. Obviously, all of the things that you mentioned there require scores of people, I imagine. Can you tell me a little bit more about the people that work for St Helena Hospice?
So the theme and the hashtag this year is We Are Hospice Care. So there's lots going on, both St Helena Hospice promoting activities locally. We're out and about across the community, both in Colchester and Clacton, but also the national organisation for local hospices, Hospice UK, is doing a lot of good work to promote work more broadly. So Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, etc. There's lots to look out for. The key thing for us really is that hospice care is all about the people. So we're very lucky to have a broad range of very experienced and skilled professional staff, but we also have an army of volunteers that support us across the hospice, both in terms of fundraising, our shops, but also in delivering care and support, both in our inpatient unit, but also in our therapies and wellbeing centres. Currently we have about 1,200 volunteers working in the hospice in about 55 different jobs.
Just incredible. I've seen some of the coverage that we've already run this week. It's been about the variety of those roles, from medical care to the bereavement service to those volunteers, and it's just incredible. Are there any roles in particular that you have found quite unusual that you discovered when you come here that have cropped up in your time at the hospice?
Well, we have just such a range of life experiences and professional skills that people bring when they come as volunteers. So sometimes you end up creating new roles just because you have someone that approaches you and wants to offer some support. So one example I can think of is that we had, for over a year, we had a very experienced consultant psychiatrist coming and volunteering and working on the inpatient unit and seeing patients and families here. Now that was brilliant for us because quite often there are mental health issues associated with terminal illness, and also it can be very stressful for the family as well. And to be honest, most hospices would not have a psychiatrist and not be able to afford to have that as part of the team. So that's a great example of someone that had recently retired, wanted to give something back, and meant that we could offer something different for our service off the back of that.
Excellent. And in terms of obviously if the hospice is growing, presumably the number of people that work here as well as volunteers will grow too.
Yeah, so there are great opportunities for people that are interested in a career in care at the hospice. We're very lucky to have a very good, well thought of education centre. So I think we provide a good environment for staff. Currently it's about 350 people working for us, about 2/3 of those in roles that are directly supporting patients and families, and the others in our support services, fundraising, retail, etc. But we're particularly looking to grow our home care service, which is providing support to people in their homes with personal care, but also with activities of daily living and supporting carers with respite as well. And we're always looking for new care workers to come and join St Helena Home Care. So that's just one example of where we're keen to grow our service, make that support available to more local people, but also create opportunities for people to work in a supportive environment where they're giving something back to the community, but getting a fair deal and good development opportunities for themselves.
Excellent. You talked there about the home care service. Obviously, and again, we spoke earlier about Jarman-Howe and the education centre and the day centres that you have. But can you tell us a little bit more about that home care and actually about moving away from the kind of the bricks and mortar hospice and out into the community?
So I think increasingly we sort of see Jarman-Howe as sort of the heart of the hospice, and it's the place where people can come back together. So it's good to have the education centre so people can come and have their training and support. It's really important that there's good communication between all of our teams, but also we regularly have GPs, district nurses, doctors from the hospital coming across and meeting with us as well. But what we've realised is that realistically it's quite expensive to run specialist hospice care in the inpatient setting. And so the best way for us to meet that growing demand is to go out and provide those resources, those skills into people's homes. And now I'm very pleased to say that the full range of support that the hospice offers pretty much is available in people's homes. So our chaplaincy team will go out and provide spiritual support. Our therapists will go out and provide complementary therapies and treatments. Our medical team will go and do home visits. Plus we do all of the home care that you'd expect from a good quality domiciliary care service.
In terms of that sort of home care and things, you talked about they're working quite closely with doctors at Colchester General Hospital and other hospitals in the area. Although St Helena Hospice is a charity, presumably actually it has quite an impact on the local health economy as well, in getting people discharged and out of hospital quickly, freeing up those beds and things. I mean, it might not be hospital to put figures on that, but have you got a sense of how much the hospice is able to support that in North East Essex?
Well, I think we make a massive contribution. We punch above our weight in terms of the positive impact we have on the local health system. The reality is that hospices grew out of a gap in good quality end-of-life care in the NHS. The movement started about 30 years ago when there was a recognition that actually the quality of care was quite variable in hospices. Sadly, with growing pressure on hospitals, and we've seen obviously the difficulties that Colchester has had, for example, it's really vital that we offer good community-based alternatives to make sure that people are being cared in the right place and where they want to. Sadly, at the moment, still about 45% of people that die in North East Essex will die in hospital, but the vast majority of those, given the choice, given the right support, would have much rather been cared for at home or in the hospice. So we're always trying to work to build that up. We recognise that we have to offer a joined up way of working with other local services, because our patients and families won't just be supported by the hospice, they'll be reliant on the specialist team at the hospital, they'll be reliant on their GP and the district nurses. So a big part of our role is education, training and good communication with other providers.
And I guess they're not necessarily directly linked to that, your single point service again, which I think you mentioned earlier on is key, so that people don't have to repeat their story everywhere, or go to all different places for different levels of support. Can you tell us a little bit more about that?
Yeah, so the idea is it does what it says on the tin. You know, people can phone about any issue and we will then help take responsibility for that and solve that issue for them. We're taking about 45,000 calls every year, which I think is just sort of staggering given the service has only been running for about 3 years. It's making a massive difference in terms of people's ability to cope at home, because quite often families can do a lot for their loved one, but it's about in the middle of the night, at the weekend, when some of the traditional health services perhaps aren't easily available, knowing that there's someone that can call makes all the difference between keeping that person at home where they want to be and the family feeling in a panic that they need to phone 999. So Single Point offers a visiting service. We can send our staff out, our nurses out 24/7 to go and provide support and intervention if that's needed. But also a really key thing is we'll make all the calls, we'll link in with the out of hours GP, we'll work with the ambulance service, etc. to make sure people get the right response.
Fantastic. I'm learning lots here as well.
That's
so
good.
Which is always good.
Yeah.
The risk of slightly putting you on the spot.
Yeah.
Can you tell me about some of the perhaps most rewarding or maybe funny moments, even if that's hopefully still possible in hospice, that you've had during your time at St Helena Hospice?
Well, I think the hospice is a wonderful environment to be. I feel very privileged to have the job that I do. I think there's a great sense of humour that you find around the place. And it's just some of the idiosyncrasies that you get with the hospice that you wouldn't get in a hospital or in a GP service. For example, Paddy, our cat, has celebrity status here. Was a big feature in our annual report video last year, is a big favourite with the children that come and visit the patients here as well. So it's things like that where we allow pets. That if people want to come and visit a loved one here, they can bring their pet with them. So you see all sorts of weird and wonderful animals coming in here that you wouldn't get in a traditional sterile hospital environment, but it just creates that slightly different dynamic. And a lot of people comment on the fact that there's a lot of warmth, there's a lot of light-heartedness, a lot of humour. Whilst we've got a lot of specialist skills, it's all about that personal touch and about making people feel at home and looking after their overall well-being that makes all the difference. And it's a real pleasure to be part of that environment.
Absolutely. I'm just looking at the board behind you, just capturing some of the things that you do. In terms of the fundraising, if I can go back to that point as well. I mean, there's such a range of events that either the hospice run or that people must do for the hospice as well. Are they quite fun? I don't know, you probably don't get a chance to go to many of them.
I go to as many as I can, and my kids are often being dragged along with me. They're teenagers, so they do need literally dragging.
Yes.
But, they enjoy it once they come. I think highlights in the last year were Bubble Rush, which we're running as an annual event now at Castle Park in Colchester. I think we had sort of well over 1,000 people taking part this year. That's just great fun for kids of all ages, and I include myself in that because you get to do a very gentle route around the park, but there's these stations where there are bubble cannons, and each of the stations has a different colour ink within the bubbles, so you end up looking very kaleidoscopic when you get to the end of it, which is brilliant. We also got the Comic Hero Run. I was very fortunate to be sponsored by a local business. Unfortunately, the cost of that sponsorship was I had to dress up as Bob the Builder and run around the 10k course. And there were lots of other people, He-Man and She-Ra and Spider-Man, etc., which was a great family atmosphere as well. So it helps us spread the work about, people's awareness of the hospice. So should they need help or they know someone that would get the benefit, they know where to come. It also helps us raise money, but also it creates a positive image of the hospice, and that helps us recruit volunteers and staff in the future as well.
And of course, that all comes back to, again, Hospice Care Week and the theme of getting people involved. I didn't quite realise Bob the Builder was a comic hero.
I think we were stretching the definition a little bit because they were a building firm, and I think given the amount they were willing to pay, it was well worth breaking the rules a little bit.
Of course. If you could pick any comic hero to run as maybe next year, who would it be?
I would have loved to have run as the Hulk. So I think if I can find enough green paint, that might be something I try next year.
So it might be, if there's a business out there deals in green paint or something, perhaps.
Maybe Johnson's or Home Base or someone might like to get in touch. Yeah.
Excellent. Sorry, I'm throwing you in at the deep end on that one. I should probably offer to do the same myself, I suppose, before I do that.
Well, yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Just finally, before we wrap up the chat today, obviously you talked about the kind of the growth plans and things
Yeah.
at St Helena Hospice, but where would you like to see the hospice in, say, 5-10 years' time?
Well, I would hope that we are making it usual that if people need our care and support, that they can guarantee that they can get it. I would love us to be an organisation that can always say yes and always be there when people need us to be there. And I think with the plans that we've got, with the support of the local community and the joint working that we're doing with other local organisations, I think we've got a really good chance of getting there.
Fantastic. Is there anything else that you'd like to kind of tell people about today about the hospice?
Well, I guess the key things are, that there are lots of ways that people can get involved and help us. So we're always looking for people that are interested to get involved and to support the hospice. People can donate to us in terms of helping us with all of our shops that we're opening. There's always some great bargains, so people can also shop from us. If people want to play the Your Hospice lottery, as I say, it's very easy to set up a direct debit online. You can also find out more about the range of events that we've got coming up over the next few months on our website, which is www.sthelenahospice.org.uk. And you can also follow us on Facebook and Twitter, and you'll find out all the latest hospice news and events and opportunities to get involved, including opportunities to come and work or volunteer with us.